Pay close attention because what you're about to hear challenges almost everything people say about relationships. Many believe that the key to keeping a man's interest is to keep texting, keep showing up, and make sure you're always present. But the reality is often the complete opposite. A woman who stops reaching out, who becomes quiet, and who suddenly disappears from a man's daily routine doesn't automatically lose his attention. In many cases, she becomes impossible for him to ignore. Stay with me until the end because you'll discover why this happens, what goes on inside a man's mind when your silence replaces constant communication, and why this simple shift can create powerful attraction without forcing anything. Before we continue, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Neville Wisdom Library, and watch all the way through because what you're about to learn could completely change the way men respond to you. Sometimes distance creates a level of attraction that constant availability never can. This is one of the most overlooked truths about human psychology. Many women believe they need to stay in regular contact so a man won't forget about them. They worry that if they step back for even a short time, he'll lose interest, move on, or replace them. Yet real life often works very differently. When you're always available, always replying immediately, and always ready whenever he reaches out, you can unintentionally become predictable. And predictability rarely creates excitement. People don't usually become consumed by something that is always within easy reach. Instead, the mind naturally focuses on what feels uncertain, what seems missing, and what can no longer be taken for granted. The moment you stop reaching out, something changes inside his mind. If you're enjoying this, hit the like button now. Until then, he may have felt completely comfortable with the rhythm between you. He sent the messages, you replied. He called, you answered. He set the pace, and you followed it. That gave him confidence because he always knew where he stood. He knew you were interested and assumed your attention would always be there whenever he wanted it. Then everything changes. Suddenly, he doesn't know what you're thinking. He doesn't know where you are emotionally. He wonders if you've lost interest, if you've moved on, or if someone else now has your attention. That uncertainty creates an empty space his mind wants to fill. The human brain naturally searches for answers when something familiar suddenly changes. For many men, this instinct becomes especially strong when someone they value seems to slip away. What once felt guaranteed no longer does. Instead of taking your presence for granted, he starts noticing your absence. Without even realizing it, he may begin checking his phone more often, wondering why you haven't contacted him. He replays old conversations, looking for clues about what changed. He questions whether he said or did something wrong. He wonders if he missed an opportunity or failed to appreciate you enough. Since there are no clear answers, his thoughts keep returning to you. Curiosity slowly becomes constant thinking, and over time, that thinking can grow into obsession. What makes this so effective is the quiet shift in the relationship's balance. Before, he believed he controlled the connection. He decided when to text, when to call, and when to make plans. But once you stop chasing the interaction, that certainty disappears. Now he's the one waiting, wondering, and hoping to hear from you. For a man who genuinely cares, this change is powerful. Instead of losing interest, he often becomes more invested because he wants to understand what happened. As the silence continues, his imagination begins filling in the missing pieces. Rather than dwelling on small disagreements or ordinary moments, his mind naturally returns to the best memories you shared together, making your value in his life feel even greater than before. Leave a comment saying silence if you've ever stopped reaching out and noticed him putting in more effort than before. The moment you become the woman he believes he could lose, your value often rises in his eyes. Many women worry that staying quiet will make a man forget them, but when his interest is real, Silence frequently produces the opposite result. Your absence creates a feeling he can't easily ignore, pushing him to reconnect. Men don't usually walk away from someone they genuinely want. More often, they lose interest in situations where everything comes too easily, where there is no mystery, no anticipation, and no reason to appreciate what they have. When you step back, you bring back the curiosity that had disappeared. He starts wondering about you again, thinking about your life, your choices, and what you're doing without him. That curiosity keeps your presence alive in his mind, because desire often grows where there are unanswered questions. This isn't about manipulating anyone or giving someone the cold shoulder. It's about respecting yourself enough to stop carrying an unbalanced relationship on your own. Too many women spend all their energy trying to hold a man's attention. They're always the first to text, always making plans, always keeping conversations alive, and always doing the emotional work to keep the connection moving. What usually happens? He becomes comfortable. Since everything is being done for him, he no longer feels the need to contribute the same effort. Without realizing it, you've removed every reason for him to step forward. When you stop doing all the work, you send a powerful message without speaking a single word. You show that your time, attention, and energy aren't unlimited. You show that your presence has value and should be appreciated. You also show that a healthy relationship requires effort from both people. That isn't being harsh. It's called self-respect. And genuine self-respect is deeply attractive to the right man. There's a psychological reason this works. It's known as intermittent reinforcement. Simply put, when something is constantly available, people gradually stop valuing it as much. But when access becomes uncertain, the brain places even greater importance on getting it back. This same principle explains why gambling becomes addictive for some people and why others stay in unhealthy relationships longer than they should. Uncertainty creates anticipation in a way constant predictability never can. If you've been consistently giving your attention and suddenly step back, you introduce that uncertainty. He's experienced your warmth, your conversation, and your presence before. Now that they're missing, he begins wanting them again. Instead of reaching out because you asked him to, he often contacts you because he genuinely feels compelled to know what changed. Type yes if you're ready to stop chasing and allow him the opportunity to pursue you instead. There's another important piece to understand, and that's the role of a man's ego. For many men, confidence is closely connected to feeling desired by the woman they want. When you suddenly stop reaching out, it naturally causes him to question what happened. He begins asking himself, why did she go quiet? Did I make a mistake? Has she lost interest? Is someone else getting her attention now? Those unanswered questions create emotional discomfort, and most people instinctively want relief from uncertainty. One of the quickest ways for him to find that answer is by contacting you. He reaches out to see where he stands, whether you're still interested, and whether the connection still exists. Without saying anything, you've completely changed the direction of the relationship. Instead of always moving toward him, he's now moving toward you. Women who understand this no longer try to prove their worth through endless effort. They stop overgiving, over-explaining, and constantly seeking validation. Instead, they invest in their own goals, their own peace, and their own happiness. Ironically, that's what makes them even more attractive. A woman who has a full, meaningful life, who enjoys herself whether a man is paying attention or not, is uncommon. She doesn't chase approval, and because of that, she naturally stands apart from everyone else. She quietly challenges him without saying a word. She doesn't create drama or play games. Instead, she values her own time and lets her actions reflect that. Deep down, many men are naturally attracted to women who don't make everything easy. Not because they enjoy difficulty, but because confidence, independence, and self-respect are incredibly attractive. The women men often think about the most aren't the ones who are available every second of the day. They're the women who have healthy boundaries, full lives, and enough self-worth that they don't sacrifice themselves just to keep someone's attention. They understand that stepping back isn't meant to punish anyone. It's simply a reflection of how much they value themselves. Without saying it directly, their actions communicate something powerful. My life is meaningful. My time matters. My attention is valuable, and it isn't automatically available to everyone. That quiet confidence changes everything. It invites a man to decide whether he truly wants to be part of your life. If he does, he'll make the effort. He'll reach out, show consistency, and invest in building the relationship instead of expecting you to carry it alone. Silence also creates emotional tension, and tension is one of the strongest ingredients in attraction. Comfort has its place in healthy relationships, but when comfort turns into certainty that someone will always be there regardless of effort, appreciation often begins to fade. When you're constantly available, there's very little uncertainty. He assumes he can reach you whenever he wants. Nothing feels at risk. But when you stop reaching out, that certainty disappears. Suddenly, he doesn't know where he stands. He doesn't know what you're thinking or whether he still holds the same place in your life. Comment absence below if this has already changed the way you think about your own value. That uncertainty creates emotional tension. While it may feel uncomfortable, it also keeps his attention focused on you. He replays conversations, wonders what changed, and searches for answers. Often the simplest way for him to ease that uncertainty is by reconnecting and putting genuine effort into the relationship. This becomes even more powerful if he had started taking you for granted. If he had grown used to receiving your attention without giving much in return, your silence suddenly feels like losing something valuable. Human psychology responds much more strongly to the possibility of loss than to something that's always guaranteed. People frequently recognize the value of something only after it's no longer within easy reach. As long as you were always there, he didn't have to think about what life would be like without you. But once you step back, that possibility becomes real. In an instant, you're no longer the woman he assumed would always be waiting. You're the woman he may have let slip away. Ironically, people often work much harder to regain what they've lost than to appreciate what they already had. The best part is that this doesn't require complicated strategies or carefully crafted messages. You don't have to analyze every text or come up with the perfect response. Instead, you simply continue living your life without making someone the center of it before they've truly earned that place. This isn't about withholding love or acting distant on purpose. It's about having standards that protect your peace. It's about recognizing that your attention, your energy, and your time are valuable, and they belong with people who genuinely appreciate them. When you stop chasing someone who isn't matching your effort, you give them the opportunity to recognize what they're missing. If they realize your value, they'll step forward with intention. If they don't, you haven't lost anything meaningful. You've simply stopped investing your energy where it wasn't being valued and made room for something healthier. Perhaps the strongest message silence sends is confidence. A woman who quietly moves forward without arguing, demanding explanations, or needing constant reassurance, shows a level of inner security that's rare. She doesn't depend on someone else's attention to feel worthy. She doesn't need endless answers to keep moving. She trusts her value, protects her peace, and continues building a life that makes her happy, with or without someone choosing to come along. That kind of confidence is uncommon, and because it's uncommon, it stands out. Men notice it, admire it, and are naturally drawn to it. A woman who isn't desperate for a man's attention often becomes the very woman he wants to pursue. Confidence has a quiet power that speaks louder than constant effort ever could. Stepping back also reveals a man's true intentions. If his interest is sincere, your silence won't push him away. It will encourage him to make an effort. He'll reach out, ask what changed, and genuinely try to reconnect. But if he was only enjoying the attention you freely gave without making a real investment himself, your silence will likely be met with more silence. And that answer tells you everything you need to know. Instead of wondering how he feels or endlessly analyzing his mixed signals, you gain something much more valuable: clarity. His actions, or the lack of them, remove the guesswork, and clarity allows you to move forward with confidence instead of confusion. That's why women who understand the value of stepping back never feel the need to chase. They don't beg for someone's attention or convince someone to stay. They know that if a man truly wants to be part of their life, he'll show it through consistent actions. If he doesn't, they don't waste time forcing a connection that isn't being returned. That mindset is incredibly freeing. It removes the stress of constantly checking your phone, wondering why he hasn't replied, or replaying every conversation in your mind. Instead of making your happiness depend on one person's attention, you focus on building a life you genuinely enjoy. And when you do that, the right man is far more likely to meet you where you already are. Share this with a friend who's always sending the first message but never getting the same effort back. There's another reason silence has such a strong effect. It changes the feeling of control within the relationship. During the early stages of attraction, many men are comfortable setting the pace. They decide when to text, when to make plans, and when to take things further. But when you quietly stop reaching out, that familiar pattern disappears. Suddenly, he can't predict what's happening anymore. That loss of certainty encourages him to examine his own feelings. He starts asking himself whether he truly wants you in his life and whether he's willing to do something about it. In many cases, that reflection motivates him to reach out, reconnect, and re-establish the relationship. Without trying to manipulate anyone, you've shifted the balance simply by respecting your own time and energy. This isn't about pretending to be difficult to get. There's an important difference. Playing hard to get is an act. It's calculated and often obvious. Being genuinely difficult to get comes naturally when your life is already full. You have responsibilities, passions, friendships, goals, and standards that don't disappear just because someone enters your life. You're not acting busy, you actually are. You're not pretending to have choices, you truly have them. You're not forcing yourself to appear unaffected. You've built enough confidence that your self-worth no longer depends on whether one man gives you attention. That's what makes this approach so powerful. Authentic confidence can't be faked for very long. People can usually sense when someone is putting on a performance, but it's incredibly difficult to ignore someone who's genuinely happy, fulfilled, and living life on their own terms. Your silence also leaves behind something many people underestimate: a mental space that can't easily be filled. When you were constantly available, he could satisfy his curiosity simply by talking to you. He always had access. There was no reason to wonder. Once you step back, that access disappears. The questions remain, but the answers don't. He starts wondering what you're doing, who you're spending time with, how your life is going, and whether you've already moved on. He replays memories, searches for explanations, and imagines possibilities because nothing is giving him closure. Comment gone if someone has ever come back after you chose your own peace instead of chasing. Those unanswered questions continue circling in his mind. With every passing day, you become less like someone he casually talked to and more like someone he can't quite figure out. Instead of being just another conversation, you become an unanswered question. And unanswered questions have a way of staying in people's minds much longer than certainty ever does. Another reason this has such a powerful effect is that it awakens the fear of missing out. Many men don't like the thought of losing someone valuable, especially if they believe another person could recognize that value before they do. When you stop reaching out, his mind naturally begins asking questions. Has she moved on? Is someone else getting her attention? Is another man appreciating what I failed to appreciate? Those thoughts can create a strong desire to act. The possibility of losing someone often feels far more urgent than the comfort of believing they'll always be there. Instead of assuming you'll wait forever, he realizes he may have a limited opportunity to be part of your life. Women who understand this don't waste their energy chasing someone who only shows half-hearted interest. They stop over-explaining, overgiving, and trying to convince someone to choose them. Instead, they take a step back, protect their peace, and allow a man's actions to reveal his true intentions. Type value if you're choosing to honor your worth instead of doing all the work in a relationship. If his feelings are genuine, he'll notice your absence and respond with meaningful effort. If he doesn't, his silence provides something just as valuable: clarity. Either way, you win because you're no longer trapped in confusion or waiting for someone to decide your worth. The most important part is this: stepping back only works when it comes from real self-respect, not from a hidden strategy. If you stop texting while constantly checking your phone and hoping he'll reply, that anxious energy still controls you. But when you step back because you truly believe you deserve mutual effort and you continue investing in your own happiness, that confidence becomes impossible to ignore. Real confidence doesn't need to announce itself. It shows through your choices, your boundaries, and your willingness to walk away from situations that no longer serve you. That's often the moment a man begins to recognize your value in a completely different way. At its core, this is why silence can have such a lasting impact. It brings back the three things that naturally keep attraction alive: mystery, challenge, and value. When you're constantly available, mystery disappears. When you're always chasing, there's no challenge. When you're willing to accept minimal effort just to keep someone around, your value is often overlooked. But when you stop overextending yourself, those qualities naturally return. You become someone he can't completely figure out, someone whose attention isn't guaranteed, someone he realizes he could genuinely lose if he continues taking the connection for granted. For many men, that's a powerful wake-up call. It doesn't matter how confident he appears, how many options he believes he has, or how relaxed he tries to seem. When a woman who was once consistently present quietly steps away, her absence often speaks louder than all the messages she could have sent. The difference isn't that she chased harder, it's that she stopped chasing altogether and allowed him to experience what life feels like without her constant attention. And that's the real lesson behind all of this. It's never about playing games, creating drama, or manipulating another person. It's about understanding how human psychology works while respecting your own value enough to stop investing where your effort isn't being matched. If this message resonated with you, comment "obsessed" so more women can discover this perspective. Sometimes your absence communicates more than endless explanations ever could. Now I'd love to hear your experience. Have you ever stepped back from someone and watched them return with greater effort? Or has this opened your eyes to a different way of approaching relationships? Share your thoughts in the comments. You never know who might need to hear your story today. If you found value in this video, be sure to like it, subscribe to Love by Matt, and share it with someone who needs this reminder. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, remember this: the strongest message you can sometimes send isn't another text. It's the quiet confidence to let your actions speak for you.